Hello and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I have a fantastic guest with me today. This is someone I know you're going to fall in love with. I already have. She's, if dare I say it, a bit of a badass. Her name is Chelsea Husum. She is a construction entrepreneur, author, speaker, soon to be podcast host, mother of two young sons, and proud wife. She is also a trailblazer in the male-dominated construction industry, a survivor, thriver, and a force to be reckoned with, who has successfully triumphed over significant adversity and trauma, and is committed to sharing her narrative of resilience and triumph to encourage others to do the same. Her book is titled Real Vibes Only: Unapologetic Confessions of a Hot Mess Mompreneur. Chelsea, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time because just the fact that you are in a male-dominated industry and you seem to be
Mhm.
killing it, that in itself is very impressive. Plus, you
Thank
add
you.
on two little boys, you're a wife and now an author, and writing a book takes an awful lot of time.
Mhm. It does.
So how did you end up in the construction industry in the first place? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah. So there's a chapter in my book called Reinvention, which I feel like I've kind of become the queen of. So I'll kind of just share the backstory. So I have a Spanish degree and a broadcast journalism degree. And I thought I wanted to be the next Barbara Walters. And then I learned they make like 20 grand and work nights and weekends. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. So then I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life. So 6 months after college, the loan payments start coming. And I'm like,
Right.
I just need a job, any job. So I am from a small town in South Dakota, but I moved to Colorado to do my internship. And so I just took a job as like a temp office person downtown Denver. And let me
Mhm.
tell you, I drove around taking a South Dakota girl, plopping her in Denver. I drove down some one-way streets a lot. Like it was
Oh,
like, what is happening? What, why? Like we don't have those. So that was interesting in itself. And then that the lady, the boss said, hey, my sister's company is hiring.
mhm.
I think I want you to meet her. So I met her and then I got hired as a receptionist in a trade show experiential marketing company. Worked
Mhm.
there about almost 6 years, kind of worked my way up through the company. Um, and then I just was like, I kind of started just getting this feeling like, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm doing anything worthwhile with my life. Like I'm not changing the world or making an impact, right?
Mhm.
So I started doing some soul searching, like, well, what now am I going to do? So I quit that job, got my master's in education, and became a high school Spanish teacher for 10 years and did that, met amazing colleagues, students, really enjoyed it. The last year was pretty brutal though. And one day a kid called me an effing waste of space. And I was like, oh, tell me how you really feel. And I remember it was like September 18th. And I look over at I remember because I just sat in my classroom and I looked over at the date like, ooh, it's going to be a long year. And I was like, how will I make it through? And so I sucked it up. Then I was like, okay, I need to leave. If I don't love this, I need to leave. But now what am I going to do yet again? I started applying for all these jobs. No one called me at all. I'm like, am I overqualified? Am I just, no one likes me? I don't know. So literally the only job I got offered was as an office manager for a small construction company. So I took
Mhm.
that. And then, so that got me out of teaching. And then in March of 2020, I started my company. Really just 2020, I know, like of all the times.
Right.
Really 2020 just kind of like slowly created infrastructure to create this company.
Mhm.
And then I ended up working both jobs until April of 22. And I was like, I physically cannot do this anymore. It's insane. I spent a lot of late nights in my office crying, doing payroll at like 11, like, why?
Oh,
So yeah, that got me to this. And then I finally in April of 22 got to step into my company and actually run it how I wanted to run it and make this, create this thing how I want it, which is very exciting.
well, that is really exciting, but I do have a few questions for you.
Yes,
First of all,
please.
what small town in South Dakota?
It's called Huron.
Okay.
Do
All
you
right.
know South Dakota?
Not very well. My husband and
Okay.
I actually have considered moving up there, and we did do a trip 2 years ago, I think it was, because he used to travel there a
Yeah.
fair amount, when he was still working before he retired. He said, "Oh,
Okay.
you'd love it, you'd love it." So we did go to Rapid City for
The
four
Black
days.
Hills. I was going to say that's the best spot. It's so great.
Yeah, but it just didn't resonate with me. So it's
Yeah.
still, we haven't completely,
Yeah.
eliminated the thought, but it's like, I don't know if I could do that. But it is a very small town, and that was the city.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's my parents grew up in Deadwood. Like there's so much
Oh,
history
yeah.
there. Like Calamity Jane's buried there. Wild Bill Hickok was shot there. Like so much history. And it's really just cool. But those towns, like from Memorial Day to Labor Day, if you go any other time, like the towns are shut down literally. Like my
Wow.
mom and I went, let's say May 15th for like a girls trip and there were only like 2 restaurants open in the town. I mean, like everything was shut down. We're like, dang, we thought we were close enough to Memorial Day, but I guess not.
Yeah, that's about when we went. It was May. I think it was
Yeah.
early May, and
Yeah.
things weren't booming, but we
No,
were able to go
to do
places and
some stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
Right. The other question I have for you is, how old was that kid? Was this like, high
High
school?
school. Yeah, high school.
And he
Yeah.
could get away with saying
Well,
that to a teacher? I
I
mean,
mean,
I know
I
things have
don't
changed.
yeah, I mean, God love all the teachers right now. It's crazy with phones, social media, technology has literally changed everything and it's real hard to come back from that. But I mean, I with that same student, like we had a decent relationship. And I've always kids and I had always really gotten along.
Mhm.
Um but one day I'd asked him nicely, I bent down real nice and I was like, hey, can you put your phone away? Like literally said it like that.
Mhm.
And he started screaming at me the F word, like, I mean, at the top of his lungs for like 20 minutes. And I thought of like, oh, I need to get him taken out, obviously, of this room. But
Right.
I was scared to go do a phone call because I thought he was going to hurt me or something.
Wow.
And so I went and I'm shaking. I emailed everyone, come now. I need help. And they finally came. But I was like, oh my gosh, like what? I'm sorry. I really said it super nice too. Um, so yeah, I mean, the last year was really brutal. It was just not a
Wow.
safe place. There were a lot of really great kids, but then there were a lot of really major behavior issues and I just didn't
Mhm.
feel safe. And I was just miserable.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah. And I guess as luck would have it, I was done in May of 2019. Thank you. So I didn't have to
Mhm.
do like COVID teaching in
Oh.
Spanish. I mean, I would have had to recreate everything because I didn't do anything online. It just would have been horrible. So I'm like, okay, God, you were looking out for me you let me go on my merry way.
Wow.
So,
Well, my sister is still teaching, and she's
mm,
in her early 70s, and she's still
yeah.
teaching.
Oh my gosh.
It's actually a Catholic school though, so it's a
Okay.
private school in outside of Detroit,
Okay.
and it's a completely different type of situation,
Yeah.
and so they do have a
Hmm.
lot more control over the
Yeah.
kids, and the families are pretty engaged too.
Yeah.
It's a completely different environment.
Yeah. It's hard that, yeah, there's totally all over the spectrum of, what people are dealing with.
Right.
It's really interesting.
So let me ask you this. How in the world do you get up in the morning and go to that kind of an environment knowing that you're going to be facing kids like that?
It was brutal. I was not a night happy person. It was like my husband was probably like, "Oh my gosh, seriously, I have to deal with you."
Yeah,
Cuz it flows over in your life if you're not
right.
doing what you're happy doing, right?
Hmm.
And you're miserable having to go deal with this day after day. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, it was I just sucked it up and did it. I did
Hmm.
not enjoy it, but I did
Hmm.
it and finished out the year and moved on. And
Hmm. Did it impact your physical and mental health at the same time?
oh
I'm just
yeah,
wondering.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it was hard to like you were just in a rough spot. You know what I mean? And it's just like, make it through each day, one step
Wow.
closer to the end of the year. It was not, that's not how I like to live.
Yeah.
That's not worth it to me. I will never last. I mean, I kind of had to finish out the school year, but I will never like put myself in a situation where I'm feeling horrible and miserable.
Hmm.
Like life's too short. You could die
Hmm.
tomorrow. Why would you do that to yourself?
Hmm.
You know?
Okay, so now that you mentioned that, compare the sensation of waking up in the morning now and knowing where you're going, what
Uh-huh.
you're doing, running your own company. What does
Mm-hmm.
that feel like?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And now I'm a weirdo. I naturally wake up between 4:30 and like 5:15 before my alarm goes off at 5:30 and I go to the gym. But it's so weird and wonderful. Like
Hmm.
I own my time.
Hmm.
I I'm in charge of it, right? So,
Hmm.
and I'm really organized. Like people make fun of me because I am an organizational freak and I have problems and it is comical. But running a company that actually helps a lot. And I don't like, even with the last construction company where I was the office manager,
Hmm.
that one was run really poorly and really, it was just a mess. The books were a mess for years. When I started, I literally had to go back like 5 years and try to clean up books. And I'm like, I'm not an accountant. I don't even know this stuff is horrible. So it really showed me. And there was just every morning was all these fires to put out, or the boss would call me and be like, this happened, this happened. It was just chaos and like bad energy and like constantly things going wrong. So when I started my company, it's like, wow, I know everything not to do
Right,
real quick.
right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just a really calm, happy, positive person. And I set the tone for my day. And you know, I own my time and I do things that I need to do to feel
Hmm.
good and have energy because
Hmm.
yes, I deal with a lot of stuff, a lot. I
Hmm.
run literally everything in the company.
Hmm.
That's people are like, no, you don't. I'm like, yeah, I do.
Hmm.
It's like I could go on forever about what I do in a day or have to
Hmm.
handle. And then everything else, life, being a mom, wife, all that
Right.
other stuff too. Um, but yeah, it's really an amazing feeling to wake
Yeah.
up and know I own my time. And like before we got on this podcast, I got a call from my son. We call him the honey badger. He's having another bad day at school. And I'm like, well, I need an hour. Like, you can call me later. I'm not picking him up. Have him figure it out. You know what I mean? So, or if
Hmm.
I have a sick kid or something, there's flexibility. So it's really a beautiful thing.
You don't have to answer to anybody, basically.
No, it's literally me. I know what I have to do that day.
Hmm.
And I do it. And then if
Hmm.
something needs to push the next day, it can.
Hmm. And I do want to go back to what you were saying that when you did start your own company, you knew
Mhm.
exactly what not to do. And
Yeah.
sometimes knowing what not to do is even more powerful than
Oh,
knowing
yeah.
what to do,
Totally.
because you avoid a lot of the pitfalls and you can just move forward from there.
Exactly. And you see that you're spinning your wheels all the time and the added
Hmm.
energy trying to clean up messes every day.
Oh,
Like, why? Why have a mess in the first place? Right? Just do it right the first time and be
and then
organized. It's so much easier.
how would you move forward? I mean, how would you grow your company? How would you be
Yeah.
able to do things that you want to do when you're
Yeah.
always just, kind of trying to
Hmm.
catch up with everything that hasn't been done?
Yeah. And how are you even in business? Truly.
Mhm.
Like, I
Mhm.
don't, or, okay, you make this a year, you could
Mhm.
be making 5 times that doing revenue
Mhm.
or whatever, or
Mhm.
profit if you actually get it together.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yep. So one thing I'm real curious about is the reaction that you get from people when they find out that you own a construction
Hmm.
company,
Yeah.
especially from men.
Yeah. Overall, I've had really good reception and
Mhm.
maybe people talk crap about me when I leave, but like overall, I love the people, like my clients, colleagues in the industry, men and women. I work with really amazing people and they've
Mhm.
really just kind of taken me in and like taken me under their wing. Um,
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll get a call and most times it's guys that are calling me like to schedule work and stuff like that. And they just think I'm some random person answering the phone. And
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, they're like, well, what do you do for the company? I'm like, I own it. They're like, oh, you own it? Oh, okay. And then they're like, but you can tell they're a little off guard.
Mhm.
But really overall, I mean, It's been good. Like I haven't
Mhm.
had, I have friends that have been in construction for 30 years. And I also have quite a few female friends that own companies that are doing multi millions a year.
Wow.
Like, and I'll be in a million this year, which
Mhm.
is super exciting. But like these women are like killing it, right? And I'm like, you're amazing, And it's so I have them to look up to and call when something happens and I don't know how to handle it. Like I
Nice.
have these women that are like have 200 employees, and
Mhm.
they're like they know, and so they are nice to like offer me advice and show me the way because they've made mistakes and learned from it. And they're willing
Mhm.
to pass that on to me, which has been really cool. So, yeah,
Mhm.
overall, I'm very grateful how I've been received. And maybe it's just
Mhm.
like, I'm this small town girl from South Dakota. Like this, I am who I am. I'm not like, I'm an honest person. What you see is what you get. And I
Mhm.
think people really like that. I'm just honest and I'm just
Mhm.
myself and I'm nice and I'm responsive. They're like, man, I've never gotten an email back that fast. Or, oh
Mhm.
wow, I've never gotten that contract signed so quickly. And I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
I have problems. This is just me.
Mhm. Well, they sound like good problems to
They're
have. They're
good, I
like,
guess. But I'm like, okay,
yeah,
yeah.
champagne problems. They're good ones to have.
Yeah.
And speaking of though construction, because you live in an area that is growing by leaps and bounds. I
Oh yeah,
told
it's
you before we
crazy.
started recording, I'm
Hmm.
down there once a month typically
Hmm. Yeah.
in your area. And every time I go, it's like, whoa, something else is just like, it's just exploding the amount of
Hmm.
growth and building and everything that's going on there. So do you think that, are you getting a lot of business from the building there, or is it more
Hmm.
like, homeowners? What type of
Uh-huh.
construction do you specialize in?
So we work in commercial construction.
Mhm.
Our niche is called ground penetrating radar. It's a concrete scanning. It's a really expensive little machine that scans concrete and it tells you if there's something inside of there. It's mainly for safety. And
Mhm.
then we do core drilling, which is the circular cutting in floor or wall of concrete. So mainly like we're working in Denver on all the high rises downtown. We're doing
Mhm.
20 floors we're cutting all the holes in there. And then our biggest clients are electrical companies and mechanical companies, and they come in and I don't even know what they put in the stuff, but they
Mhm.
fill that up and for these buildings. But I mean, we're at Denver International Airport. We're working at up in Breckenridge. We're working in Fort Collins, Greeley. Literally,
Wow.
I just am quoting a job in Durango for an airport. Like, so we're in schools, government buildings. We're all over Colorado and sometimes Wyoming too.
Oh my
So yeah,
God, you are
it's
killing it.
thank you. And the cool thing too is with living in Castle Rock, like there is a lot of building here, but a lot of my main work is, let's say, Denver,
Mhm.
but we go everywhere in Colorado. But the cool part is my company has helped build part of the hospital and the new library, which is really cool because my sons are like, Mommy, you helped build that. And that's
Mhm.
cool that I had a little tiny part in that, right? So
Mhm.
that people will enjoy for so many years to come. So it's really cool to,
What
yeah,
an
be involved.
amazing role model, especially for boys to see,
Thank you.
look, my mommy built that.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, but they're like, they are so excited about it.
Oh, that is so incredibly cool. Okay, so I just have to ask this. When you look back at that small town girl,
Hmm.
living in that little small town in South
Hmm.
Dakota, if you could have fast forwarded
Hmm.
in time and saw what you are doing now, what would that girl say?
She'd be like, holy crap, who are you? I never dreamed of any of this. And you have this, we all like, we have this dream. And then my life is like, I move toward that and then I get bored easily. I'm a
Mhm.
Gemini and I like get really bored and I'm like, oh, gotta change that. But it's like, I've really taken all these weird, unplanned twists and turns in my life, like completely, but I just have kind of gone with it. And I would
Mhm.
never think my life would be what it is today, but I am so blessed and grateful. Like it is, I wouldn't change a thing, even the hard times would not
Mhm.
change a thing because it made me who I am. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now in life if I
Mhm.
didn't have that. Right.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would never any of this. It's like, what? Who are you?
Yeah, well, you're pretty darn awesome. I can say that for sure.
Thank you.
So then when did you decide to write a book and what was the motivating the catalyst behind that.
Yeah. So I need to be clear. I never wanted to write a book. It was not on my
No one
list.
does. I know.
Yeah.
It just
Well,
happens.
some people I talked to were like, yes, since I was a child, I wanted. I'm like, yeah,
And
I
no.
had
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
zero. Um, so I joined a women's entrepreneur group in Denver, and I
Mhm,
went last year to an event, and they
mhm.
had a keynote speaker, and I almost didn't go because it was a woman who owns a publishing company in Denver. And I was like, I don't want to write a book, but so I guess I'll just go for the brunch. And this woman is speaking, and I'm just like, I love her. I love her energy. I'm like, I'm just gonna go talk to her afterwards. And then
Mhm,
we chatted, and I'm like, I feel like I could write a book. And at this point, I'm like, no clue what I would even write about. But I'm like, I feel like I might have some stories. I don't know.
mhm.
And so we end up, yeah, let's do this. And honestly, like again, I didn't even have a direction for the book. It
Right.
just I had maybe a vague idea, but I sat down and started writing, and all my book is just a bunch of short stories through
Mhm,
of my life. Some are really short. Um but it's like some are really traumatic things that I've gone through. Some are in the
mhm,
middle, some are lighter, but it's just
mhm,
like real. Like my first
mhm,
chapter is if you're a perfect mom, don't read this. And then I list all the crazy things my children have done that week. And I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. I'm losing my mind,
uh-huh.
and I'm crying in the bathroom. And it's just like, there's so many people out there that especially as women, we feel that we need to be perfect and we need to have it all together. And
Mhm,
we're juggling a
mhm,
million things. Like what we handle in a day is ridiculously insane.
mhm,
Like you can't even fathom it. Like, why are we doing all this? It's
mhm,
crazy. But it's like, I want women, especially entrepreneurs, busy people, to feel seen and heard and be like, oh, she's a hot mess too. Yeah,
mhm,
she's been
mhm,
through some major stuff, but guess
mhm,
what? She made it out.
mhm,
Because when we're like the human experience is life is hard. We have
mhm,
every single person has dealt with really hard things, but
mhm,
it's like when you're in it, you feel like it's going to break you and you don't
mhm,
know how it's so hard. But it's
mhm,
like, I want to inspire people to be like, you will get out and you will be
mhm,
stronger. And you're not going to laugh about it anytime soon, but like you will learn and go out and be the person now you're going to be. And not
mhm,
everyone's like, writing a book about some of this stuff, but like get
mhm,
rid of the shame, get rid of the guilt for some of these, so many things that happened to us all,
mhm, mhm,
and at least forgive yourself and get rid of
mhm,
those negative things
mhm,
because they don't serve you. And not like you need to go write a book or start a podcast about it, but like be okay with yourself
mhm.
first. And then if you choose to, go share your message because other people need to hear it.
Absolutely. I'm really interested too who that publishing person was in Denver.
Yes, her name's Samantha Joy, and she
Okay.
owns Land and Hale Press. And
Okay.
actually, my mom just wrote a children's book with her as well.
Oh,
So
wow.
now I have like all these new author friends, which is so cool. I have like
Mhm.
30 books in my front room that I need to read. Like, I'm like, yay, they're my friends.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, it really is an amazing experience. I was wondering if it was
Hmm.
actually because my friend who has a publishing company, and I met her after
Yeah.
I decided I was going to write a book, and long journey with the first one, long story, and somebody
Hmm.
actually said you need to talk to this woman, and I already had a writing coach,
Uh
and
huh.
who really wasn't very good,
Yeah.
and I didn't know it then,
You don't
and
know.
you don't know
Yeah.
what you don't know.
You
So
don't.
then, yeah, I called her and it was like, oh my goodness, we were off and running to the races.
Hmm.
And as a matter of
That's
fact, she
awesome.
hooked me up with an editor who does live,
Mm.
my editor lives in Castle Rock.
Oh,
So,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, as a matter of
awesome.
fact, I just had lunch with her last week. So it is a
Hmm.
really crazy experience writing a book.
It
And,
is.
as for the listeners, anybody out there, if you are even considering it, even thinking, in a vague sort of, nondescript way, it really is an amazing experience and an
Hmm.
incredible journey, and especially when you find somebody who is a publishing expert or someone who
Hmm.
could help you. It's quite a ride.
It is. And I sat there crying a lot writing, because
Mhm,
I was reliving some very
mhm.
traumatic things. And, it's like therapy though. Just
It is.
you have these feelings, right? And you've experienced it, but to put it into words is
Mhm,
hard, but it is like therapy. So numerous times I would sit and work on this and cry, and it's a very powerful experience.
Well, with my second book, which is a memoir, it chronicles my journey into the crazy
Mhm.
world of men and martial arts as going in as a middle-aged princess and not going willingly. But it was so funny because, I already had kind of like an outline and part of it written. And then when
Mhm.
COVID hit, it's like, oh, well, it might be time to get serious about this.
Right.
And I just remember the first day I was down here in my girl cave and I was typing and writing, and I was laughing so hard the tears were, I mean, I was
That's
just my
awesome.
stomach hurt. I was laughing so hard, and I'm pretty strong. I got strong abs. And
Oh,
it was like so amazing. And then like 2 days later, I went back down and I'm writing another story and I'm getting ticked off all over again. It's like, hey, wait
yeah.
a minute, I can't believe they did this to me. So
Right.
you just
It's definitely
take that.
emotional roller coaster, yeah.
You ride that roller coaster, but then you get off and it's like, wow, it was quite a ride and you survived
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Mhm. So now you're thinking of starting, well, not you're not thinking about it, but you're going to start a podcast.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so how did that come about?
Well, I've been on a lot of podcasts lately. When I leave the conversation, I feel so filled up and it's just like, yes, you know what I mean? You feel so energized and it's so amazing the people you meet and the
Mhm.
conversations you have. Um, and I feel I want it to feel like you're sitting on the couch with your best friend and you're chatting about life and just being real, you know? So I'm definitely going to do some solo episodes, but I want to bring other women on to talk about like what they've gone through in life and how
Mhm.
they made it through and just what inspires them day to day and things
Mhm.
like that. Very similar to your show, right?
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
what lights you up? What can you pour into other people and shine your light in the world, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, that's my goal.
Okay. And we have a flexible launch date of
Well, I don't even know. I it
good.
is going to
Okay.
happen soon.
Okay.
Let's say hopefully by May.
Okay, when it does happen, you
Yes.
need to contact me and give me
Okay.
the link to the show, and I will include it in these show notes so people will
Okay.
have an easier way of finding you and getting in touch with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm. So, what is next for you and all of your
Mm.
awesomeness?
So really ultimately the construction company I need to, that is takes the most of my time and I have employees and I need, it's been doing well and I just want to keep that growing. So that's always my priority. The book's out in the world. I definitely I'm speaking in not August, April in
Mhm,
Dallas at
mhm,
a Amberly Lago. I don't know if you know her. She's amazing. If you don't, check her out.
mhm,
I'm speaking at her event
mhm,
there. And so really I spoke a lot before COVID, have done a little bit
mhm,
since, but I definitely want to ramp up my speaking and be doing like keynotes and things like that eventually. Um, so that's exciting. And yeah, I don't know, just sharing. I feel called now. I really never did before, but realizing I do have stories to tell.
mhm,
Now I feel called to share that with people and hopefully it inspires at least one person.
mhm. Well, I think people really need to hear. We need to share our stories,
We do.
and I really think that when we do that, and that's why I do this show, is
Mhm.
we really kind of establish more of a human connection, especially after COVID and we went through all of that
Yeah.
isolation.
Yeah.
It's like we are not as different as the media and
No.
society would like us to think. I mean, we
Mhm.
all have the same needs, we all have the same
Yeah.
dreams, more or less. We all want to be safe and loved and take care of our
Mhm.
families, our communities. And I think by sharing these stories with each other, it's like, wow, I'm really not a freak. We've
Yeah.
all gone through stuff. We all
Yeah.
survive it and come out on the other end.
Mhm.
And I just think it really helps restore that human connection and our own human dignity.
Completely. I completely agree.
hmm So, is there anything else you would like to share with us? I have to tell you that I am a little bit disappointed, only a tiny bit, that you didn't come on the show wearing a hard hat.
It's in my car. I keep my boots and my hard hat in my car. So I'm like driving and I veer over to a site and I plop it on. So dang
Oh,
it.
that is.
I should open everyone with a hard hat and my high vis vest.
Well, you might want to do that for your own show. You never
I
know.
know, maybe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because it certainly emphasize your niche.
Yes, right.
Mhm.
But what were you asking? What do I want to share
Oh, do you have
with
anything, yeah, more that you'd like to share with the listeners that we haven't covered yet or haven't talked about?
I mean if you're feeling alone or not seen or the need to be perfect, like I could definitely go into depth here, but like there's a lot of things I've been through. Like
Mm-hmm.
my husband, a lady that he works with is reading my book. She's like, "Oh my gosh, your wife. I feel bad for her. She's been through so much. Is she
Oh.
okay?" And he's like, "She's good. She's good." Like, yes, I have been through a lot. And, so it's like knowing that's out there, like there were some stories that were 20 years old that my parents, my husband didn't even know. And I had to tell them, hey, this pretty traumatic thing happened 20 years ago. Like,
Right.
I want you to hear from me before the book comes out. But I felt called to now share this,
Mm-hmm.
with the world, and really luckily was met with good support from them. So it's like wherever you're at in your journey, like you might have shoved some stuff down from childhood, from, early life. A lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
um, do the work to take care of yourself. What do you
Mm-hmm.
need to do to heal that so you can live your best life now and not have shame or guilt and actually love yourself and go out in the world and do what you're meant to do?
Because it doesn't just go away on its own.
It doesn't. And it's deep in there. It's in there, right? And how is that affecting us? But how amazing does that feel when you finally get it off your chest and you're free of it? You take back the power
I was just
that
going to
someone
say
else
that.
had over you,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is amazing in
Mm-hmm.
itself.
Mm-hmm. It's incredibly empowering and very liberating at the same
Mhm.
time.
Totally.
hmm Okay, so Chelsea, where can people find you? How can they connect with you? If you have anything going on social media wise, I mean, I know you
Mhm.
have, meetups and stuff, but
Mhm.
just share whatever you want to with the listeners.
Yeah. So I would say the best way just to kind of find out all the info is at my website. It's chelseahusum.com, CHELSEAHUSUM.com. There's links there to the book, to eventually the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
to different events I have and speaking, and just all my social links as well. Like I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been
thank
amazing. I've
you.
loved this conversation. I love your energy. And, wow, what a role model you are, not only for your kids, but for other women and for little
Well,
girls.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like we could talk forever.
We could, but I
We
know
could.
that I know your schedule. So,
Well,
but
thank you
thanks.
so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great. Everybody, thank you so much for listening, and do share this episode with everyone you know. What an inspiration, what an uplifting story. And just how much power that we really all have deep inside of
Mhm.
us. We don't really know until we get out of our comfort zone, and it's really uncomfortable to do that, but just you never know what wonderful things you can create and what you can share with the world. So get out there and do it. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.